Alright, Travis Wayne Goodsell. This morning I saw some suspicious activity. So what you have here is my morning run route. And probably can see the arrows, I guess. But right here at this corner, there we go. I was coming up on the road here and saw right at this corner a vehicle turning in, and then another vehicle right behind it turning in as well. What they were doing is a known tactic of the first vehicle being the scavenger vehicle, looking for anything they can pick up and steal. The second vehicle behind them is the lookout vehicle, and they will, I'm assuming they have like phone or some other kind of method of communication that they can alert each other. But also right here was parked another vehicle. I didn't think anything of it the first wave. It's when I came back on the first lap, as I was crossing the street, that I saw another vehicle parked next to it. And it was a cop car that was parked that stopped next to it, because the back lights all lit up like a Christmas alarm, and so something was suspicious to the officer as they were pulling up next to it. As I came back for the second lap, I saw that the vehicle was gone, and so was the cop car, but I did see a vehicle pulling out onto 47th here before I got there. There was also a couple of kids on bikes, and as much as that's suspicious activity, it's not suspicious enough for reporting to cops. But it appears that the cop missed the two other vehicles and only found something with the one parked vehicle that apparently had a driver inside. There's two different tactics that are being used here in this area by thieves. The first is the one I told you about with the tag team vehicles. There are occasions where you just have one vehicle only, but yeah, it's done in different ways depending on which gang is involved. They have their different tactics for doing things. But the other one, where the cop was flashing their lights with the parked car, that's another tactic. I was kind of surprised that there was a driver in the vehicle. But what they do is they park a vehicle in the neighborhood, and they have it set up so that if something happens or they need to get away, they've got a quick access to 47th, and they can turn left or right to get a quick exit. This tactic allows them to get out of their vehicle and walk on foot, as they then will go into the neighborhood looking for things to stick in their backpacks that they'll have. And then they, as you can see here, they've got a good clear line of sight to their vehicle. If they find cops have stopped it and are searching it and whatever, they can go through these other routes to get out. This right here, it's not a traffic road. It's I don't understand why they even have this. It's just a sidewalk here. This is just a cul-de-sac. But yeah, they then would call backup to come pick them up at another location that will keep them away from the vehicle. And so if that's the case, oftentimes you want to get a stolen vehicle rather than your own vehicle, because once they identify your license plate, they trace it to you. So you clearly want to use a stolen vehicle rather than your own when you're committing crimes at night. As I used to patrol the neighborhood, this area here by Wormwood was getting the heavier theft incidences because I was pushing them westward here. And so people were complaining and wanting to join the neighborhood watch because the cops just weren't responding and not doing anything. But yeah, let's go back to the regular recording to talk about the moral of the story. So as police officers, when you're having to serve and protect rather than punish and harm, as is the case here in Utah, seriously, it's that bad here in Utah. But you need to know the criminal playbook. You need to know how they do things. You need to know their modus operandi and MO. And so just like in football, you have plays that you run for your team in different positions, and whether it's offense or defense, you have a whole ton of plays. And the reason why you have a whole ton of plays is because you want to be able to trick the other team and be able to score points and block and keep the other team from scoring points. And so having access to the other team's playbook becomes gold, because you can identify which play they're calling out and then make adjustments for your team. That's cheating, that's unsportsmanlike, but it's gold. And so, yes, in life, in religious terms, there's God versus Lucifer. And knowing Lucifer's playbook helps God-fearing people to know what to avoid and how to warn others of Lucifer's plans for them. And so, just like our nation before Trump, our intelligence communities were set up specifically to identify threats to America, and so they needed to know the MOs of the various terrorists and threat groups, crime organizations, etc., to know how to combat them and prevent them from causing harm to America. That's the whole point of knowing the other side's, the enemy's playbook. And so you may remember Brian David Mitchell. Everybody in Utah knows Brian David Mitchell because he was a Mormon who decided to consider himself the Messiah. And so in order to fulfill the Brighamite Mormon Messiah prophecies, he had to kidnap and rape 14-year-old Elizabeth Smart. he went down to California. Everybody lost her. Didn't know where she was. He had a little camp down there in California. But then he made the mistake of coming back to Utah the next year. He had Elizabeth all dressed up in robe and walking around like FLDS, but not FLDS, because FLDS at least dressed nicer. He was just in robes like wandering ancient prophets. And somebody spotted Elizabeth, called the cops, and she's saved. And the state prosecuted him first, and so the state's tactic is, well, obviously he's mentally ill because, you know, he left the church. Anybody who criticizes, leaves the church, is anti-Mormon and therefore criminal, therefore mentally ill, you know, like Abinadi, the horrible anti-Mormon, anti-Nephite, right? If you don't know the character Abinadi, he was the good guy. And because he was the good guy, he was arrested, imprisoned, and claimed to be mentally ill by the wicked King Noah and his priests. So I hope you understood the joke without me having to explain it. But nonetheless, people are people, so why should it be? You and I should get along so awfully. Pet Shop Boys. Or not Pet Shop, but Depeche Mode. Oh dear God. What have I done to deserve this? That's Pet Shop Boys. And so what they did was immediately have somebody, either for the defense or the prosecution, complain to the court, hey, we suspect he may not be competent for trial. And so then the judge stops everything, takes away all his rights, and he's evaluated. And of course, the evaluators, you know, professional psychiatrists, they know how to identify a truly mentally ill person, and found him mentally ill. Because nobody in their right mind would ever kidnap a 14-year-old girl, claim to be the Messiah, take her hostage down to California, and then have her wear a classical robe wandering around the streets of Salt Lake City a year later. Because obviously that's a mental illness and requires drugging. And so, as a white guy, yeah, mental illness is always to blame for criminal behavior of white guys. Whereas if you're black, no, you're a terrorist threat, you need to be locked up for life if you are suspected for being black. So yes, there's a difference. Notice Trump, when Trump commits all sorts of crimes and such, what do they immediately jump to? Oh, Trump's mentally ill. Oh, yeah, 25th Amendment, he's not fit for the office because of his mental instability. And then he goes and says, I'm a stable genius. Remember that? Yeah, they don't talk about, he's a terrorist, anti-American. No, that's now, by the Lincoln Project, and vote vets, and the Midas touch. Yeah, that's now, as they've failed to recognize that he's no longer mentally ill, he's just pure evil. And so, yes, Brian David Mitchell was institutionalized because suicidal tendencies is the... All he wanted was a Pepsi. If you don't know your 80s songs, you're going to be lost on this video. So, So Elizabeth Smart's father, Mr. Smart, Brother Smart, he's Mormon. He was buddies with Orrin Hatch, or Orrin Hatch took a particular interest in finding his daughter. I'm not sure if they were in the same ward or how it all connected, but they knew each other. And so Orrin Hatch, he wasn't happy with a life sentence in the state hospital. That's too much of a lush, lavish lifestyle for a guy like Brian David Mitchell. Apparently he doesn't know the state of Utah. It's a torture chamber. But, you know, it used to be the asylum where literally when you were an antichrist or have left the church, boom, into the asylum, never heard of again. So yeah, you have your menstrual cycle women, you get a little upset one day, boom, gone for the rest of your life. Hysteria. You don't believe it? Go check the log of those who were interned and what they were interned for. And so, yeah, Orrin Hatch wanted him federally prosecuted. But in order to do so, they had to reevaluate him. And it's a miracle. Utah psychiatry is the best. It's incredible. They cured Brian David Mitchell of his mental incompetence, and he was able to go to trial now for federal crimes. It's a miracle. I've been proven wrong again, as it's not a pseudoscience. They can actually perform magic. Even Trump's niece, Mary Trump, she's a psychiatrist herself. If you listen to her interviews, you can hear her. She's categorizing Trump, by which she can then judge him. Everything fits in that categorization she has made for him. That's their tactic. That's what they did with Brian David Mitchell. And so all you do is say, screw the category. We're going to judge him for his crimes. And that's what the federal government did. And so, yeah, now he's locked away in prison for the rest of his life. And so, it's amazing. Hallelujah. The pseudoscience of psychiatry pulls a rabbit out of their hat. So, you know. So I've been trying to warn you guys, because I know Lucifer's tactics. It's in the Book of Mormon. We are given the playbook of Lucifer. And it's not Lucifer in the sense of your spiritual soul being attacked by evil so that you can just not watch porn and be saved. Otherwise, you know, if you think you're gay, you got to be electrocuted in order to not be gay anymore. Conversion therapy. But the Book of Mormon actually warns us of the philosophies of the Antichrist, Korihor, who instigated the end of the Nephite civilization in Alma chapter 30, where he emerges. And that playbook is made available to us. And I've been going over it with you in various manners, hoping something would get through to Mormons. And so Yes, you notice that I'm very critical of the LDS Church. Why? Because the Book of Mormon is the pattern of the Illuminati, the enemy of America that is seeking to destroy us. And it takes two forms. It's government and religion. Remember the Great and Abominable Church? It goes over in great detail how to recognize and identify the Great and Abominable Church with their playbook. And yet all Mormons miss it. Incredible wealth, polygamy, murder, misinformation, disinformation, lies against their own people even. And all Mormons miss it. So yesterday, I found out, sure enough, it's the Eagle Gate. I should go back and reword my pictures so that I don't get confused with Seagull Gate and go back to it when I get senile as an old man. Unfortunately, my DNA says it's not going to happen. I'm going to have a good, clean memory for the rest of my death. But yesterday there was also some other things that came out. Not only has Trump been funneling money out of the 9/11 Survivors Fund, he also declared to Janine Pirro in an interview on Fox in the morning that it's his intention to finally get the troops on the streets of America for Election Day. And suppress the vote, make sure he wins, beat down any protesters. Yep, he will finally get his wish to have the military on the streets of America. That's his tactic. That's his MO. You don't need to be a psychiatrist to place him in a category box by which to judge him, Mary. He himself reveals his own patterns. He uses them over and over again. He put them in his books, like The Art of the Deal. You know, he's an open book of evil. He allows us to see his playbook. And yet, people let him get away with it time and time again. Because it's an effective tactic that nobody has put a stop to him. Rich and privileged and white. A dangerous combo. Dangerous cocktail. And we were told about this in the Book of Mormon. And Joseph Smith, likewise. Constitution will be in jeopardy. Hang by a thread, as most of us recognize it as. But the Constitution would be in jeopardy. And how is it in jeopardy? Oh, Nicolas Cage is going to steal it? No. You defy it. You go against it. You make laws contrary to it. You violate it. That's how you put it in jeopardy. And so, I'm surprised they haven't had Nicolas Cage stealing the Constitution with Brighamite Illuminati. That's what the Eagle Gate's all about, as I found out yesterday. That, yeah, it was the gate to the Ponderosa of Brigham Young. And there you have eagle, inverted pentagram, beehive, yep, the symbol of the Illuminati for Brigham Young's estate. Yay. And then you have his son, Don Carlos, who designs it. Don being Donald, which is world leader, world ruler. And yes, Trump knows the meaning of his name, world ruler. But I'm horrified that Mormons are waiting for Nelson. to tell them what to do. Mormons are not reading their scriptures. They're not seeing the playbook of the enemy, whether it be Lucifer for religion or the Illuminati for government and religion. They don't know how to liken the scriptures unto themselves to identify the playbook of the enemy. And as a result, it's like you are sleeping in your beds, unaware that the thieves are in the night, stealing from you, setting the chess pieces for checkmate while you're sleeping. That's the purpose of prophets, is that they're not sleeping, they're watching, they know the playbook, they're warning. And Nelson's silent, because Nelson is the enemy. Nelson purposely hesitated to shut down the church with coronavirus. He contacted China. China told him, like they told Trump, about the coronavirus being spread by air, and it's going to be very deadly. And just as Trump purposely delayed it, not only delayed it, purposely caused groups to form in order to get people infected and then escalate it and spread it on a large scale. And he succeeded. And he didn't want that one case on the cruise line to come into America. He was trying to protect us. He had no choice but to bring him in because the Democrats demanded it. Yeah. So yeah, that case came to Utah, didn't it? Mountain Medical Center, whatever it's called. And I did the video warning you, we got our first case, guys. And then it kept spreading, and I kept doing videos. They need to shut everything down. They need to shut everything down. Don't do a temporary thing. Shut it all down. And the church and Governor Herbert were not listening to the medical professionals. They were hesitating. They were allowing it to escalate, get worse. And then all of a sudden they decided, okay, fine, everything's shut down. Only essential workers, and of course everybody in Utah considers their job essential. I have to push these papers on this desk. It's essential. Yeah, because people don't want to lose their jobs and get only $600 for a few months. Are you kidding me? They've got Disney Plus to pay for. They've got to make sure they can watch the upcoming Mandalorian Season 2 this November or sometime about. Yep, Baby Yoda. And so, yeah, it gets worse. It escalates. And then they decide, hey, we're going to fraudulently control the testing numbers to keep it below 200 so that we can justify opening for the anniversary of the Illuminati on May 1st, when the Nauvoo Temple was also dedicated, by the way, with the symbolic picture of Joseph and Hiram being the Omega symbols, Messiah symbols, and then conquered by the Lucifer symbols of Willard Richards and John Taylor, with Brigham Young, the master Illuminati, in the middle as the stained glass window. And so what are we going to do, Mormons? You're getting played as chumps in these latter days. You are all waiting for Nelson. to say, okay, Mormons, it's time to save the Constitution. And then you can get your guns. So, nope. Instead, you're the ones destroying America. You are the enemy. Because you're following the enemy. You're following their playbook. And I hope you don't realize you're following the playbook. I hope you're not doing it willingly. Saying, oh yeah, we know this is evil. We love evil. Hail Satan, full of grace. Bless me, Lucifer, for I have been good. Or is it, curse me, Lucifer, for I have been good? Which one is it? So, I sincerely hope you're just foolish virgins and not knowingly evil. Stable genius evil.